No censorship and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to Headliners. I'm Simon Evans. Very shortly, my comedy guest and myself will be going through Tuesday morning's newspapers with you. But first, here's Polly with the news.
Good evening. The latest news headlines on GB News. Boris Johnson will announce details of a new £300 million package of military support to Ukraine in an address to the country's parliament tomorrow. Downing Street says it'll include electronic warfare equipment, GPS jamming equipment and thousands of night vision devices. It follows Mr Johnson's unannounced visit to the Ukrainian capital last month in a show of support and solidarity with President Volodymyr Zelensky. In a recorded message, the Prime Minister will hail the resistance of Ukrainians in the face of the brutal Russian invasion as their finest hour. Well, also in the news today, we can tell you that there have been channel crossings today. At least 300 people have been intercepted in small boats in the English Channel so far today. Yesterday, the Ministry of Defence confirmed 254 people arrived in 7 small boats. It follows 11 days without crossings, with strong winds and choppy seas may have been a factor. The Labour leader, Sir Keir Starmer, says an international coordinated criminal response is now what's needed.
I've worked on international criminal organisations before when I was Director of Public Prosecutions. I know what can be done if you've got teams working together across Europe, all the way along those routes, absolutely bearing down on these criminal gangs and working very closely with the French authorities as well.
And Ukraine's Navy has released footage of what it claims shows a drone strike hitting 2 Russian high-speed patrol boats. The Raptor-class boats are said to have been destroyed at dawn near Snake Island in the Black Sea. Moscow has not yet responded to the claim, and GB News cannot independently verify the video. One of Britain's most wanted men has been arrested after trying to fly to Portugal using a fraudulent passport. Alex Mail from Weston-super-Mare in Somerset is accused of drug trafficking and money laundering. He's been on the run since December 2020 when he skipped bail and fled to Spain. The National Crime Agency says he was detained at Lisbon Airport on Saturday after arriving on a flight from Turkey where he'd been refused entry. And on our next story, the Prime Minister's considering giving housing association tenants the right to buy homes they currently rent. The Telegraph newspaper reports that Boris Johnson has asked officials to draw up plans to help young people struggling to get on the housing property ladder. On TV, online and on your radio via DAB+, you're with GB News. And now it's Headliners.
Hello and welcome to Headliners. I'm Simon Evans. Joining me tonight are our Headliners stalwart, Diane Spencer, and a Headliners virgin, Francis Foster. I say virgin, it's a slightly old-fashioned term for it, isn't it? But
well, thank you for outing me.
Greenhorn. Congratulations, you've made the grade. Anyway, very nice to have you in. Have you been following the show for the last 6 months?
No, of course I have. I've been very much enjoying it, Simon, and I'm looking forward to giving my own take on the news and everything that's happening.
Yeah, you understand your responsibilities.
Yes.
Some basically a 5-line limerick on every story before you begin. And if you could give us some sort of mime or sort of performative, bit of interpretive dance or something like that, just to break things up. Otherwise, we find the hour doesn't go past very quickly. Diane, I'm afraid, has cornered the tableau form. Very much her own.
Yeah. I'll be bringing out some ribbons later. We'll have ribbons and also, and I think some Commedia dell'arte masks.
That would be very nice. To be honest, I think a few masks actually really would do us. That would cut a lot of the gaff, wouldn't it, from what we have to come out with. Anyway. We will have a quick look at the front pages now. We start with the Daily Mail. They want to know, where have our GPs gone? My guess would be the golf course, but they have more detail on that, I expect. The Daily Telegraph, Johnson says Ukraine is ready for its finest hour. And there's a photograph there of Ronnie O'Sullivan, who has won yet another World Championship snooker final. You keep thinking you've seen the last of him, but no. The Independent have Ukrainian refugees forced into overcrowded homes. That doesn't sound like the worst thing that's happened to them lately, but anyway, that's nevertheless the story they're going with. And there's an example of one of those on the front there, holding a shoe. The Guardian has Patel faces mass legal action from Ukrainians stuck in visa backlog. There's a photograph there which might briefly appear to illustrate that story, but in fact, it's lift-off for cities' Eid celebrations, the end of the month of fasting. I think it's that. Gosh, I better make sure I'm brushed up on my Muslim calendar. The Financial Times, the biggest story. It's always hard to tell quite what they're going with as such, but the main headline there on a story on a page full of copy is Johnson enlisted for last-ditch bid to wrestle arm into London listing. Wrestle arm, get it? Phone of Spanish PM Sanchez hacked in first use of Pegasus on a serving leader. I could have sworn they used it on Johnson a couple of weeks ago. Never mind, perhaps it's in the detail. The Mirror says that Maddie prime suspect is a danger to society. Can't believe Maddie is still rumbling on after all these years. And in the Mirror too, who were never quite her keeper of her flame, and the Queen's Guard intruder blunder. The Times has that same photograph of people celebrating the start of Eid. I think it's pronounced Eid, is it? Sorry, Eid al-Fitr at Small Heath Park in Birmingham, and rising inflation to blow £7,000 hole in pensions. Gold-plated schemes will not keep pace as cost of living surges. The Daily Express has Boris's right to buy plan is vote winner, and Ronnie rockets to 7th world title. There he is. And finally, as ever, the Daily Star throws us a bit of a curveball. We're med for it. Forget passport delay woes. Britain is set to be hotter than Crete, Ibiza and Saint-Tropez. 23 degrees centigrade. Well, it'll do for the spring. So those are our headlines. Stay with us and we will dive into them in some depth. So our top story, we have arbitrarily decided, is from Tuesday's Express, and this is Boris Johnson. Finally, a recognisably Conservative initiative, increase home ownership, Francis.
Well, it is a recognisably Conservative policy because there are echoes of Margaret Thatcher with the right to buy, etc., etc. And what Johnson is doing, he wants to give the right of up to 2.5 million tenants to give them the right to buy the homes that they rent from their housing associations. Now, of course, you think that sounds great, and I do as well. I think that it gives people an incentive to get on the property ladder. This can only be a positive thing. But the problem comes, Simon, if you're not replacing the housing stock. That's what causes a crisis. And at the moment, we're not replacing the stock in anywhere near the numbers that we need. And so what you're doing, in my opinion, is just perpetuating the housing crisis.
Perpetuating it?
Yeah.
Or failing to solve it?
Failing to solve it and worsening it.
Yeah, worsening it. Actually worsening it.
Yes, you are.
Would you not say that if you're increasing the number of people who are buying houses, then that is putting some capital possibly into the housing associations who might then be able to bring further property into their remit?
But the problem comes is that a lot of these housing associations, actually, they can't build because of prohibitive legislation, but also because of corruption in the market, whereby the housing... we actually, on my podcast, we actually interviewed Liam Halligan, who works on the show, and he was talking about it, and that a lot of these big property companies, they control a lot of the ground and a lot of the land, meaning that houses can't be built, flats can't be built. So unless we actually find a way to get new property built, I think this is just going to be a surface-level solution.
What do you think, Diane?
Well, I think it's very nice that you could have the opportunity to actually buy your house and then put up your own horrendous wallpaper, which is always a positive.
You move away from blue tax and into raw plugs. That's the major sort of life change. That
it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or when you go, do you know what? I'm fed up of white walls. I actually want to have a wall with some colour for once in my life.
And also become obsessively interested in the property market as a source of your possible pension. Yeah.
But suddenly you have a whole new thing to talk about, you know, with parents and other people and people who already talk about this kind of thing.
You start noticing when kids are mucking about outside the house. Yeah. But seriously, I mean, just in terms of what Francis says, we are all in recognition that young people in particular are really struggling now. I mean, it's never been easy, you know, certainly in my lifetime to get onto the property market, certainly not, let's say, since this century. But it is in an absurd state now. Is this actually going to do anything about it, do you think? What's your gut feeling?
Well, my gut feeling is that I think it will help some people, and I think some people will benefit from it. And but obviously, whenever you have something like this, people take advantage of it. And I just hope that if they do bring this in, there are some robust rules to stop people
just
from
flogging it off.
Yeah, you got it.
Flipping it. Yeah. I remember several people I knew who had rent books, as they call it, you know, if you had a council property and they weren't really entitled to them, the rent book had been passed on a couple of times since the last time they checked who was living there, managed to buy the place and then flip it and make quite substantial profit very quickly. And it does make you feel a bit cynical about the whole thing. But obviously, you're right, Francis, there needs... Well, I say obviously, but I concur anyway. We need to build more properties. The trouble is, I do think if the market is really allowed to work and allowed to, you know, work its magic, its Adam Smith invisible hand magic, what should happen is that London property prices would put people off from living in London and seeking what they believe to be, you know, the best jobs. Places like Leeds, Liverpool, Manchester, Birmingham, so on, where property prices are a little bit lower, but they still have the size of the infrastructure, the city, the population to support big businesses, and they could move there and say to people, you know, come here and work here and you won't have to spend all your money on rent and so on. It would be quite an effective way of levelling up, which seems to be one of the major sort of policy initiatives of the government anyway. Do you know what I mean? So if you just try and smooth out those differentials, actually you're just perpetuating yet another problem. If you start building on the green belt, you know, that land I think is somewhere now between Watford and Hemel Hempstead or something, but, you know, there are supposedly sort of protected fields, you know, one or two cows still wander around on potentially £1 billion worth of real estate. I don't know. I think the market can actually solve this if it was left to its own devices.
Simon, I'm in complete agreement with you, and I actually do think the market can solve this. But the problem is that the market is not being allowed to solve this.
Exactly right.
And when that happens, what happens is that you have a population which is continuing to grow. You have more and more people coming to this country. Therefore, the demand for housing is going up. But if you're not building, you're not solving it.
Maybe we could kill two birds with one stone if we built a full shore about 5 miles short of Dover.
Yeah.
And those people who demand housing would think they'd made it, and they would all move into the new houses, and that would be sorted. And gradually, well, if the Dutch can do it, we can.
Yeah.
Francis, I think we also come to you for this is a little bit of a cock-up in terms of the order, but who has prepared? You have prepared the latest for Mariupol. Is that you?
Yes. So this is a story coming from Mariupol, and it's, I mean. The thing with these types of stories is that a lot of the time you hear the numbers coming from the war in Ukraine, and it has a desensitising effect on you because they're just numbers. But occasionally you read stories and they really cut through to you. And this was one that did it with me. And this is a group of civilians who were evacuated from the Mariupol steelworks, but hundreds are still trapped there. So obviously, Mariupol is currently under siege in its terrible, terrible scenes. And there are hundreds of people who are trapped under the steelworks. They went there for refuge, and now they're physically trapped.
So are these industrial, like, caverns that have been built that are part of the...
Yes.
Okay, right. They're Stalin-era tunnels and bunkers specifically built to withstand attack.
Right.
So it's marvellous that Putin is being stymied by something that his icon Stalin built.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And they've actually there's the first group of civilians have actually managed to escape and they've been led to safety, but there are still hundreds of people trapped there, including bodies as well of people, and it's an awful
They've opened
situation.
out a bit of a corridor now.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah.
They're starting to see some sort of breakthrough, some sort of the logjam is starting to clear.
Yeah, so hopefully over the coming days and weeks we're going to see more and more people be evacuated from it. But these people have been trapped there for weeks. It's an awful story.
Anything to add to that, Diane?
No.
You want to announce your own personal, emotional state? I wouldn't let Francis get away with he's got his nose ahead of you now.
That's
People
fine.
always have their doubts about you as a little bit of a slight bit of a Cruella.
Yeah. I do come across as very cold and unfeeling constantly.
Oh, these people, they go into the holes. What can they expect?
Wow.
I mean, there's no more detail, though, that we need to know about it. It's obviously horrific.
No, there are. I suppose the main thing is that now that the corridor is open, they're all going northwest into a city known as Zaporizhzhia,
Right.
which is in the Ukraine-held region. And what was quite positive about this, which I took from it, is that some civilians that were taken to the Russian-held Donbass region, but they were allowed to leave and go to the Ukrainian-held region.
Oh, OK.
So that is something positive to take out of this
improvement
situation.
in terms of the rules of engagement. Yes. Diane, we stay with Russia now, and the Ukrainian situation. Israel has summoned the Russian ambassador to explain himself, though not, it seems, on the larger picture, but on quite some specific detail that they've taken exception to. This is quite interesting in a way.
It is very interesting. So Israel has summoned the Russian envoy over the foreign minister's Hitler comments. So Sergei Lavrov...
He's gone full Livingston.
It really has. Sergei Lavrov, in an interview with Italian TV channel Mediaset, managed to state that he was talking about the denazification of Ukraine, which is their pretext for this whole horrible invasion of the country. And Sergei Lavrov, the foreign minister, managed to say that if he remembered correctly, and I may be wrong, he said, Hitler also had Jewish blood.
Well, you've missed just to intervene, but you've missed a key stage. Somebody said to him, how can it be Nazified, Ukraine, when they have a Jewish prime minister?
Because Volodymyr Zelensky is Jewish.
Yeah.
Yes, and so he then said that Hitler...
Some of the Jews, some of the worst anti-Semites in history have been Jewish, and then gave us an example, Hitler, who he thought has Jewish blood in him. Which I do remember, not that I intend to exculpate this individual from these outrageous comments. I do remember that being a rumour when I don't know whether it's been ever completely denied, but it was always suggested that he had a suspicion about himself.
Yes.
Because I think it was on his grandfather's side, he had been his grandmother had been a maid in a big house that was she had been serving a wealthy Jewish family. And he had suspected there were two sides. Possibly that he had felt humiliated that his German mother should be a servant to a Jewish family, or possibly that his German grandmother had been,
yes,
seduced, let's say, by which is what a popular country house type story, isn't it?
Yes.
So it doesn't come out of nowhere. That's all I'm saying. I don't say that it's correct, but it's one of those persistent rumours.
There's definitely some smoke connected to that fire.
Do you know what I like about this? We've been doing this show for about 15 minutes and we've already got onto the subject of Hitler.
Yes, absolutely. He's never far away. No, it is quite rare, actually. I think it's the first time he's ever come up on.
Well, this is what I bring to the show, Simon.
Exactly, it's true. Yes.
So this has obviously sparked a massive diplomatic row with Israel, who up until now have not come out against Russia. They haven't imposed sanctions on Russia, nor have they delivered any arms to Ukraine. And they have a lot of arms because obviously they get a lot of their arms from the US. So this is quite interesting that Sergei Lavrov has gone and really put his foot in it with the Jewish peoples. And Lapid, Israel's foreign minister, has said that there is a limit, and this time the limit has been crossed.
That is quite an interesting way of putting it, isn't it, after all the atrocities of the last 2 months? What's your take on that, Francis?
Well, it's interesting that we're talking about this and that we're focusing on this. And then the guy said, I can't remember his name, that there is a limit and the limit has been crossed. I'm like, really? Is that what we're picking out? Is that what we're going with? Not, the illegal invasion of another country, tens of thousands of people being slaughtered, crimes against humanity. No, the fact that we brought up Hitler in a discussion.
Or even the fact, not even all those, but even by his own terms, it's by far, it's not remotely the first time that they have raised Nazism. That they have actively said these guys are literally Nazis.
So they're quite like woke people on Twitter, aren't they?
Yes. Wait a minute. Did you just misgender Hitler?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Tuesday's Telegraph now. It seems our hopes that the promise of a free flight to Rwanda had done the trick in slowing down the migrant flow. That may have been premature, Diane.
Yes, so more than 300 Channel migrants have arrived in 2 days, despite Rwanda plans, says the Telegraph. You see, what the government seem to be doing is when the sea is calm and the boats cross, obviously then people get picked up. Now, when the seas are stormy and rough, the Tories don't go, oh, the sea is rough, nobody's crossing. They go, look, our plan is working. They're kind of taking credit for what the weather does, which is novel.
Well, it's interesting you say that. I think quite a few independent commentators were going, oh, I didn't think it would work, but it does seem to work. Funnily enough, the first one who blew the whistle on the weather was this channel's very own Nigel Farage, who, if nothing else, is fairly well acquainted with Dover crossing conditions and gets out there on his rib, you know, and beetles about with his mega inflatable, you know that?
Oh, yes, I just didn't realise he had a rib.
Well, no, it's what they call them, an inflatable dinghy.
Yeah.
But, yeah, he goes out there and, well, he broadcasts back to this channel. But he was the one who was saying this is nothing to do with Rwanda, this is to do with the strong northeasterlies, as it proves correct. So I suppose back to the drawing board. But actually, they haven't actually brought it in yet anyway, so we don't know. I think it will take a few flights before it has any deterrent effect. I mean, they will actually probably have to see people being deported,
it has
otherwise
to happen.
they will think, yes.
Because this became law on Thursday, and so far we have 250 people, and by my calculations, that's maybe an Airbus A333 -300. So, because you're thinking about it in terms of planes, and like you're right, once the first planes take off, that's when it starts, and that's when the communication will flow back to everybody, and that's when the reality will hit home of this is what they're going to do.
They are remarkably clued up as a rule, aren't they? The migrants in the on the French.
Well, the people traffickers.
Them as well. But the word gets around extraordinarily quickly, and they are very good, I think, to be fair, at filtering out bluster and PR and getting down to, brass tacks. What do you think?
Well, I think it just shows how dreadful France is, Simon, that someone's willing to get on an inflatable dinghy to get all the way over here. Dreadful country. I've said it many times, and this is just ultimate proof for me.
Yeah, it is true. I feel bad for them because they've come through some of the world's loveliest places often, Greece and Italy and so on, and then they
did have to go through Belgium, so...
Yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it, to say what's the point at which to stop? But we've all done it. We've all been in a casino, you're on a winning streak, and the next thing you know, you're bottomed out. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. But I think that the one point that's really important about this is that when people go, oh, we should just let everybody in, and it's just like, well, what you're then doing is incentivising people traffickers, and they're going to proliferate. And then what is going to happen is that more and more people are going to cross, and therefore more and more people are going to die. This is a situation that needs to be dealt with.
Well, they'll die, and there will be another capsizing, I'm sure, in due course. And also, I think, perhaps even arguably more importantly, you lose half the country. If not more. A lot of people I know on the left who are very pro. Large-scale immigration, mass immigration, but they say if you are pro-immigration, you have to be against the illegal.
Of course.
Otherwise, you undermine the whole project, and everyone conflates it in their mind. And can't see that there's any difference,
Yeah.
And before you know it, there are, people hiring out gunships that you can go out and have a day trip, and,
Sounds marvellous.
I don't want to put ideas in Nigel's head. Anyway, that's it for part one. Rest, recuperate, gather your energy, for after the break, we will be discussing the sad but inevitable decline of Farah, the ghost of Kyiv, and Dominator, combine harvesters. I bet you can guess which story that relates to. We'll see you in a couple of minutes.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes & Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debate, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes & Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m,
as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question.
That's two questions, actually. That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
And welcome back to Headliners with the gorgeous Frances Foster and the intelligent Diane Spencer. They tell me that's how to distribute compliments most effectively. So, Guardian now, legal eagles to remain in their nest, Francis, but at a compromised pay arrangement.
Indeed, this is a very interesting story, and I think this is going to show the way that we're all going to be moving forward as a society. Stevenson Harwood, a very prestigious law firm in London, or so I'm told.
No, they aren't.
Yep, they have given, that is a man with a law degree, they have given their staff an offer. They say, you can work from home, but you've got to take a 20% pay cut. So junior lawyers at the company have starting salaries of $90,000. That's too much. Meaning anyone can take...
Starting salaries, that is pretty hefty, isn't it?
Yeah, 90 grand.
That is after a 3-year degree and then 1 year at law school.
And then selling your soul, and you get 90 grand. There we go. Meaning anyone taking up the offer would lose 18,000. So it would go down from 90 to 72,000.
Although realistically, of course, I mean, depends exactly how they arrange their affairs, but that would all be taxed at 40%, that 20%. So in fact, they lose roughly 10,000, you know. But still, roughly 8,000, sorry. It's still significant. But, you know, it might just tempt them. Well, at least it feels like they've been given the choice. What do you think?
Well, if they only lose 8,000, then according to my back of a fag packet maths...
How many Airbus 3000?
Oh, no, train tickets.
Oh, yeah.
But still in the transport zone. You see, if they are not commuting in... I mean, I had a look, and your season tickets range from anywhere between £1,908 all the way up to, eye-watering, £11,000 for a train ticket. Now, add into that...
Train ticket or
ticket? Season train ticket. So you commuting.
Yeah, like an hour's-long journey, like in from Brighton, that sort of thing.
Something like that. I basically looked up what was the most expensive, like on-record season ticket.
Liechtenstein.
Add into that, you're just commuting from Paris. Yeah. Add into that your 3 coffees a day, and let's say that you've got a low budget for your sandwiches, so that will take you to another about 2.5 grand.
Yeah.
So,
it could even out. On the other hand, without anyone supervising you, you do spend more money on Amazon as well. You know, it comes down to that. I mean, it's interesting from my point of view, stand-up comedian, I mean, all you guys, you know, it's not been quite the same sort of overhaul, has it, of our live-work arrangements, do you know what I mean? But I think some people have actually rediscovered the potential for a little bit of elbow room in their lives, and they really don't want to give it up. It's quite interesting, you know.
I think the thing is a good friend of mine who's ironically a lawyer said that before COVID that we had the worst of both worlds, where we were expected to do, 60 hours in an office. Yeah. But at the same time, you were always on call. Yeah. You could be reached at any point with technology. Yeah. And now people have gone, well, look, if you want to reach me at any point and you can reach me, then why not?
Why would I be? Well, it's a very good point. Yeah.
Commuting is very bad for you psychologically.
Oh, yeah. Well, but also being on call at the weekend and everything. I noticed that my wife works in PR, and I noticed that almost as soon as I married her, you would get phone calls and emails, and she would be checking her BlackBerry as it then was in 2001 or whatever, you know, in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So the reality is we're more connected than ever. Do we actually need to be in the office? I would say 1 or 2 days a week.
Exactly. I mean, that's got to be the obvious compromise, doesn't it?
I would argue.
Yeah.
Well, I would argue on what your industry is. I think that there are some industries where you need to have people there in the office. You need to... Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Sandwich making, you want them there, you want them focused. We don't want to have too many cheese, too many ham, you know, spread the workload. But there are some industries where being able to have flexible working makes a lot more sense.
Absolutely.
I think... Listen, it's been long established, without banging on about this for too long, but it has been long established that it is crucial to mental health and happiness that you feel, however delusory, you feel you have some control over your life. I think that is a really... They find that if old people are allowed to choose the pot plant that they have on their mantelpiece when they move into a care home, they stay alive for another 2 years, you know. So be careful about that.
Yeah, I'm going to stop picking the pot plant, Simon.
Tuesday's Telegraph, Diane, it seems that time has finally outrun even the speediest of little legs. Time has caught up with our greatest distance... I say our greatest distance runner.
Well, I think the Telegraph have been incredibly unfair with this. So their title is Mo Farah's elite career in tatters. Following 10-kilometre defeat to unknown club runner. And I just think this is unnecessarily flamboyant with their language. I think it's very rude. I don't think Mo Farah's elite career is over at all. Do you know what it is? It's the beginning of the next step of Mo Farah.
Right.
Like all of our great athletes, could be a commentator.
Yeah.
He could be a coach. He could be anything. It's just the end of one phase of his life and the beginning of the next. Why have we got to be ageist about this? Especially...
I mean, it is the end of his elite career, though, isn't it?
No.
Tomorrow is the first day of the end of your life.
No. Oh, you cynics! You awful cynics.
I think it is unnecessarily cruel. Well, it's a attention-grabbing headline, but yes, he's 39 years of age. Of course, his elite career is over.
Yeah.
How many distance runners remain absolutely in the first rank in their 40s?
Yeah.
None. That's surely established, isn't it?
And I do you know what? I feel really happy.
You're lucky if you have 2 Olympics in you, to be honest.
Yeah.
No, well, that. I mean, Redgrave was a sitting down sport. He managed to get 5, and that was absolutely steel-hard determined.
Yeah.
I mean, it's obviously...
Mo is a 4-time Olympic champion.
Yeah.
4 times.
I know.
So absolutely fantastic. I do not think that this is the last we shall see of him. And, like the article says, if this is the end... it would mark a sad farewell. It's like, Jesus,
it's a lovely farewell.
We're not
He's been
pushing
beaten
him
by
off
an
the
amateur.
cliff.
Somebody's had a lovely day out. It's perfect, you know. To be honest, if he carried on running well into his 40s, it would only reawaken certain accusations, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
That you don't want to adhere to you in your autumn of years, I don't think. Good luck to you, Mo. I'm sure you will find all sorts of valuable sponsorship deals. Probably like a stair lift or something. France's tech giant abuses monopoly powers. Surely not. This one from The Guardian.
Can we believe it that a big tech company would abuse their powers? Yeah. So the EU have stepped in because they believe that Apple have been breaking competition law over contactless payment. So they've charged Apple with breaking competition law because what they do, they've been accusing them of limiting rivals' access to technology when you're making a contactless payment, therefore creating a monopoly. And they've said that this is illegal and they are charging Apple as a result.
So people have basically come up with apps which would be in competition with that and would probably use other banks or whatever, and Apple have made it harder for them to do that. Is that the number?
Yes, that is another bit. But this is where it gets really interesting because Apple could face fines worth up to 10% of its global revenue. And they make...
It's quite a lot.
365 billion.
What?
Wow.
That's like 1 billion for every year.
Yeah.
No, every day.
Every day. They make $1 billion a day, and they're
absurdly profitable. They're actually unusual among the big 5, aren't they? That they actually are worth the money that they're said to be worth. They're worth over $2 trillion now. I remember when they were all. Everyone was waiting to see who would become the first $1 trillion capitalised, and now they burst through it and carried on.
Yeah.
But they have been actually making money, unlike a lot of them who are just sort of building their reputation. Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow.
And so this is a real worry for them because if it goes through, this is going to significantly hit their profits. I mean, you can't feel sorry for them, really, because 10% of 365 billion is still a decent day's wage, isn't it?
I switched to iPhone with my last phone about a couple of months ago. I've got it here, and I'm still actually... I don't like that. It's that slightly enclosed and sort of, patented... Everything is Apple. Everything is Apple.
Yeah.
Whereas on my previous Android phone, I always felt there was a little bit of air. Do you know what I mean? There were a few doors and windows open.
A bit more fluidity.
Yeah. You could go where you wanted with things, but I don't know. I wouldn't weep for them. What do you think? I don't even like having contactless on your phone. That just feels wrong anyway. I mean, I think who can't be bothered to carry a couple of plastic cards with them? It's not...
It does feel a little bit creepy, especially when sort of you look at your phone and it says, oh, would you like to pay with the card that ends in these numbers? And you go, I do not remember keying those in.
Yeah,
thanks. So glad you've picked that up.
Yeah.
Well, it's all to do with how Apple are also limiting... they set the rules, this article says, about the near-field communication, which is what the apps use to help other people pay. And that's just not on.
I agree. And there's all kinds of dangers of people walking up the escalator with a machine now, aren't there?
Yeah.
But I got a new 3-year-old car recently, and this has got one of these things where you keep the key in your pocket, and not only can you start the car, you can open the car door with the key in your pocket. It knows that you're right there.
Somebody's doing very well out of GBNews.
I don't know. I'm not happy about it. I want to
new
go back.
iPhone, new car.
I want to go back. I've said too much. Independent now, Diane. The Santa Claus of war isn't real, it seems.
Yes. So the Ukraine admits that the Ghost of Kyiv fighter pilot is a myth, and they have said this on their Facebook page. Now, the Ghost of Kyiv was a brilliant morale-boosting story because obviously the Ukraine's air defences are so much smaller than the Russian ones. So there was this idea that this single solo Ukrainian fighter pilot downed 40 Russian aircraft. Of course, you're going to kind of let that fly, literally, and it just filled everyone with so much hope. And they even sort of connected it to a real pilot, Major Stepan Tarabolka, who died in combat on the 13th of March. But now, in the wake of wanting to be hygienic with their information, and those are the words...
Interesting word, OK.
Well, that is the words that they have used.
Yeah.
So, hygienic with their information, they have...
switched to truth-telling mode.
Yes, and I think that's because, obviously, just like this was the first ever pandemic where we had the internet, this has been a war that has had the most media coverage, the most information flowing out of it, because you have, obviously, the propaganda flying out of Russia. You have cyber disruptors, proper sort of fleets of people out there trying to pass all this false information around. So I think Ukraine are taking
basically
the initiative.
you're forgiving them for having created this falsified pilot myth. And
of
you're
course.
keeping your stack of Ghost of Kyiv fan fiction by your bed.
Oh
clearly.
my God! Of course, he's the picture. I
your hero.
I sort of look at him before I go to sleep.
Francis, I would ask your opinion about it, but we've run out of time. It's time for a commercial break, so I'm afraid you'll have to keep your little views to yourself. We've reached the end of this part. Coming up after this most brief of interludes, we will be discussing combine harvesters, Meghan Markle's latest flop, and Amber Heard's poor public relations, and loads more. See you in a couple of minutes.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debate, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners with Diane Spencer and Francis Foster in the hot seats. Tuesday's Mirror. And finally, we get to that key word that allowed a Tory MP to confuse sexually explicit material, NSFW, with farm machinery, Diane. How? It sounded implausible, but it turns out there is, in fact, a hinge word which explains everything.
Oh yeah, this totally explains everything.
A word which, of course, we've all been waiting to hear from your lips
I'm
as well.
going for it. So, Tory Porn MP, this is the headline from the Mirror, was searching for Dominator combine harvesters,
right.
Allies claim. Yes, it's the kind of tractor that rides you.
And somehow he keyed in dominatrix, presumably, instead, which is otherwise you wouldn't, I don't know, what would you get?
Well, what's quite interesting is that we all know how algorithms work. So, sir, if you're typing in Dominator and the pornography pops up, sir, that means you've got a history of typing that in.
I don't know, maybe, yeah.
Yeah. Suddenly all the men get very hesitant. Yeah, I guess. I just know.
I mean, also the class...
Depends, the key one is BBC. If that just takes you to the state broadcaster, you're fine.
Yeah.
You don't even know that one, do you?
I do. I'm taking a moment. For those of you watching the repeat, good morning. The class dominator also is, in fact, a combine harvester.
Yeah.
It is not a tractor.
No, but I think that is allowable. I mean, that element, I did see that and think, well, that's not exactly. But then people do use the word tractors to mean all kinds of mobile cars.
Yes, but should the chair of the Environmental Select Committee confuse a combine harvester and a tractor, sir?
It's a good job he's resigned already. Yeah. Otherwise, it'd be annoying if he was to have to go on that technicality. But where are your sympathies on this front?
I'm with Neil Parish. He's the chairman of the Environmental Committee. Have you ever listened to people bang on about the environment? It gets really boring after a while. I mean, how much
You'd rather listen to people bang?
Yeah, absolutely. And just after a while, you just think, no.
So is that what we do? When we get bored,
yeah.
we don't listen.
Yes.
We just start looking at porn.
Well, you know... All I'm saying is he's a good man. He does a job that's very boring. He's going to mess up once in a while.
Where was it? I never read it in the first place. Was he on the benches in the House of Commons? Was he literally in the famous chamber, or was he like in a...
He was in the famous chamber.
He was in the famous chamber.
Yes.
That defiles my parliament. If it was a select committee meeting or something, possibly on a Zoom. Oh, well, he's had his justice has been meted out. Tuesday's Independent. And Netflix have given up on Meghan Markle's Pearl, Francis.
Absolutely. So there we go. Another wonderful innuendo there. Thank you very much, Simon. We have reached that time of the evening. Meghan Markle created an animated series with Netflix called Pearl. And here it is. And basically, it's a children's series about a 12-year-old girl who's inspired by history's famous feminists. So it sounds rubbish, and it probably was rubbish.
Sounds wonderful. It's just a shame.
And I'll tell you why it sounds rubbish, right? Because nobody wants to hear a lecture, right?
Yeah,
when you watch a programme, what do you want? You want to be told a story. It doesn't matter who the story is about, but you want a story that actually engages you and takes you somewhere.
You don't think these history's famous feminist women would have a story?
No.
Oh, they might, but Pearl being influenced by
them.
I wouldn't be any more convinced if it was about a 12-year-old boy who was influenced by history's greatest warriors. And that might be, you would think that would be my thing, but I still think that sounds rubbish.
Yeah.
Because you would just go, no, that's not how it works, people 12-year-olds don't read books and go, I'm going to be just like Marie Curie or whatever. You know, it's like, I mean, maybe they do, but kids don't want to watch that stuff.
As a former teacher, I can tell you, they're just bullying each other on social media. That's what they do.
Interesting if a 12-year-old girl was influenced by history's greatest dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Now you're breaking through paper walls and crashing down glass ceilings left, right, and centre. You're in the middle of a glass swimming pool.
Yeah.
Right, OK.
You understand how it works?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Is there a portal involved? And so does she become the dinosaur? Is this it?
The portal is a bucket.
I love it. So she stands in the bucket and she somehow gets transported to the Triassic period.
Meghan had managed to do Harry's favourite, whatever it was.
Do you know what? If Meghan actually wrote that series that we just discussed,
I think we should workshop it for her.
Number one, I think she's nailing it, and number two, you know, she's got a great dealer.
She has failed to deliver on her Spotify deal as well, I believe.
Yeah,
it's for the wheels are coming off the Meghan wagon pretty remarkably fast, to be honest.
I think the problem is as well is that Netflix is going through hard times at the moment.
Yeah.
They're losing millions upon millions of subscribers. They saw a real boom during the pandemic when everybody was literally at home all the time consuming content. Now that the world's starting to open up, more and more people have decided that they don't need a Netflix account, also the cost of living crisis. And as a result, they have to tighten their belts. And they've looked at this and gone, well, this is rubbish, and they're probably right.
And talking of which, Guardian next time, Cinderella goes to the wall rather than the ball.
Yes. So, well, I mean...
I over-explained that pun.
That's all right, don't worry. So, the Andrew Lloyd Webber musical Cinderella will close in the West End. And it's actually going to go to America. Now, Andrew Lloyd Webber was not a Prince Charming in the way that he delivered this horrible news, in that you have many actors who are getting very excited and go, I'm going to be part of the cast of Cinderella. They found out in a tweet.
Wow.
They found out online in a publicly made tweet that suddenly the job that they thought they had, they're not going to have anymore.
So, sorry, was this a new cast? It's been on for a year, right? Was this the new cast that was going to turn over, and instead he just went, that's it, it's ending?
Yeah, and instead he's just ending it, and he's going to take it to Broadway in 2023. And this is, I mean, it's been sort of plagued with problems because it literally, he's been trying to launch it repeatedly through the COVID pandemic, repeatedly through lockdown.
Yeah.
And this has led Andrew Lloyd Webber to make lots of angry anti-government statements about it.
I have to say, I don't know what your antenna will prick up here, Francis, but apparently it's quite a woke rewriting as well. It's a reimagining of the story, and it concerns itself largely with beauty shamings. The ugly sisters are actually gorgeous, and Cinderella is, she's pretty good looking, to be honest, but she's unconventional. She's carrying an extra couple of pounds, I think, or something. You're supposed to think, oh my goodness. Yeah. The ugly sisters are more conventionally attractive than Cinderella in this. So it's more about Cinderella saying, take me for what I am, and I'm not going to, try and play up to your patriarchal ideals of Western beauty.
Well, that's not going to work on Tinder,
well, exactly,
is it?
You know.
I am utterly confused. This does not sound like Cinderella at all.
No, exactly. I think they've messed with the winner. Anyway, Mirror now, Francis. Amber Heard over bad PR.
Yes.
How can that have happened?
So, Amber Heard, all-round top lady, and just an all-round good egg with no...
Good egg, dog's egg.
Yeah, exactly. And no dodginess in her past or allegations of abuse.
Has somehow attracted all sorts of bad publicity. It's weird, isn't it?
It's weird. What are you going to do? She's fired her whole PR team after being upset by bad headlines. So she's gone to court with Johnny Depp, and the truth has now come out. Turns out she's not a very nice person. You know, she pled the victim, and now we're actually... Everybody around the world is seeing this person for who they truly are. She's got a bit annoyed about it. She can't blame herself, because why would you do that? So, blame your PR team.
It's classic Hitler in the bunker stuff, isn't
exactly.
it? It's
back
downfall.
to Hitler.
It's downfall all over again. Everyone except my three favourite PR advisors lead the room.
Wow, that's quite amazing.
I can get that from anywhere.
Yeah.
It's like 6 degrees of Hitler. I don't need 6.
Do you know what? That's
But it has
exactly what woke comedians are saying about this very channel.
It has been interesting to see how this has played out because, I mean, there are at least 2 elements to it that have struck me. One is I always thought Johnny Depp had a charmed life. I assumed his life was as amazing, gilded, beautiful, elegant, desirable off-screen as it was. And it turns out he's been living through a pretty close approximation of hell for some time. And I think because people, they don't just like Johnny Depp as an actor, he's kind of emblematic of a certain kind of, you know, his balance of art house movies and his Jack Sparrow big earners. He was kind of the ideal for a certain generation. You know, I don't think she is going to walk away from this with very much intact at all.
She really shouldn't. And what's interesting is the way that the behaviour of their legal teams is echoing the behaviour of the stars themselves. In that when Johnny took the stand, you see, Amber hasn't taken the stand yet, but Johnny took the stand and her legal team repeatedly shut him down. They wouldn't let him get a single sentence out without objection, hearsay, objection, hearsay. It's become, it's trended, it's memed, there's videos everywhere, and it just gives you the impression that if that's what Amber's legal team are like, that's what she's been like. She's stifled him this whole time.
That's a very interesting observation. It's so interesting, I'm not going to attempt to respond to that. Genuinely, I think that's one to have a ponder about. The Guardian has an explanation, finally, for the sickening immoral behaviour of Orthodox Kiwis.
So a rare, wicked Bible that encourages adultery, I think that's a bit strong, has been discovered in New Zealand. So the 1631 Wicked Bible...
Wow, 1631.
1631.
Early.
There are only 20 copies in existence, and they are very rarely, if never, found in the Southern Hemisphere. One has been found in New Zealand, and what makes it wicked? In the 7 Commandments, they literally omit the word not. In thou shalt not commit adultery, they've managed to omit it. So it just says, thou shalt commit adultery.
I think encourages adultery is a fair description of that.
Yeah.
Shalt. Yeah. It reminds me a little bit of autocorrect, but in the other way round, which is always changing positives to negatives in my tweets and texts.
Like when,
so, I'm sorry, but I might send somebody a message saying, sorry I can't be there, but I've been thinking about you a lot lately, and it will change it to I haven't been thinking a lot. It's just something deliberately intended to sort of create discord. But this is extraordinary. So, can I just, that would be a King James version then?
No, King Charles I.
OK, but printed under that, but he didn't order a revision, so it is a KJV. This is like,
they were hauled before the court.
Valuable,
very valuable.
It's like the most valuable stamps are the ones that have go and commit adultery. A little perforation error. Any thoughts on this, Francis?
Not really. I mean, it just shows, how boring New Zealand must be. You know what I mean?
And in further sickening immoral behaviour news, Francis, incest still legal in surprisingly large parts of the world. Francis implicated.
I mean, nobody's surprised by that, are they? No. I mean, you look at the countries that are involved, you see France joined Spain and Portugal as the only European countries without legislation, and you think, well, this is why we voted Brexit.
It is partly, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you remember Serge Gainsbourg actually had a song celebrating incest with his daughter Charlotte Gainsbourg? They made a video of it, 1984. It's called Lemon Incest, which apparently works as a pun. The French for lemon zest sounds a lot like lemon incest in French. And they thought, oh, that's a good pun. Let's make a 4-minute pop song about it.
Well, that's the French for you, isn't it?
What?
There is something...
No!
We have a map where we can have a look. Apparently there's a map. There you go. And now the interesting thing about this is that you would assume the red meant incest is bad and the yellow meant incest is good and the grey was indifferent. But actually the grey is... Those are the places where incest is banned. It's an odd... but anyway, if you look at Britain, it's banned there, but it doesn't seem to be banned in Ireland. Is that just my eyesight?
No, it's not. No, it's...
That's weird, isn't it?
Yes. No, it's not. It's not banned in Ireland. There is... I can't remember. There is some kind of law which is...
What, a different law?
Yeah, different law.
Yeah.
But my favourite ones are Italy. It's only illegal if it provokes a public scandal.
Oh, well, I like that.
Yes.
That sounds quite archaic. Like they probably just haven't had to bother updating it lately.
But then you think about it, everything provokes a public scandal in Italy, doesn't it?
Silvio Berlusconi, 5'4".
Yes. It's a great point. And also, as well, just a minor traffic infringement provokes a public scandal. People coming out of their cars. That's and in New Jersey, incestuous relationships are tolerated as long as both parties are at least 12 years old.
There are some countries as well, I've noticed, where, and this is at least a rational, response, I suppose. It's fine if it's same-sex relationships, because of course the danger of incest is that the issue of such union often comes out a bit out of out of kilter.
You know what I'm thinking, Simon? How are you going to bring this back to Hitler?
I think it's been implicit throughout. Telegraph now, Diane, and it turns out Jimmy Cagney was right all along.
You dirty rat.
It turns out he was wrong, I should say. Sorry.
Yes, he was wrong. So the Telegraph has said why rats don't deserve their dirty reputation according to scientists. So often we assume that rats are, they're a vector of disease, and we assume that in sort of urban populations, the rats carry more things that might transmit to humans. But it turns out that researchers spotted that in the available scientific research, they were actually studying urban animals 100 times more than they were studying rural animals.
Wow.
And because they were studying them so much more, of course it said, oh, well, clearly, we found so many diseased animals in urban cities. But it turns out they're no worse than their rural, cute little country mouse counterparts.
Statistical artefacts. How often do we... This is a familiar thing to your podcast and discussions. I do think, though, it's sometimes interesting with these studies. I'm sure it is worthwhile. And I saw they were saying pigeons also are not that bad. But you can't help feeling that... our guts are still telling us rats and pigeons, don't get too close, don't fondle, not good pets. We're probably right on that, aren't we?
No, we're definitely right. And what they did actually say was all animals have diseases. It's the way we interact with them that actually determines what risk they pose to us.
How do you interact with rats, Francis?
It depends on the rat, mate. The interesting thing...
Feed the rats.
on my show, we actually interviewed one of the world's premier expert on rats.
I was going to really hoped you were going to say rats then, but an expert on rats.
Yeah, an expert, rats, we actually got right. No, and...
I'm afraid that's all we have time for. So sorry. Thank you to my guests, Diane and Francis. I've been Simon Evans. Join us tomorrow night. Dominic Frisby will be in the chair. Good night.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for...
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
My name's Tom Harwood, and every weekday we bring you The Briefing live from 9:30 a.m. The stories, analysis and live debate that you need to hear.
Quite right, Tom, of course.
Was this something that had been considered at all?
Difficult to answer.
Gas-guzzling helicopters circling. Noise is being made here.
Joe Biden walking out.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, Monday to Friday, 9:30 a.m. on GB News.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule